This image lives rent free in my head. Application, conceptual understanding, and procedural fluency. And so as we're kind of playing around with this idea here, I think about my journey, your journey as a student. Like it gets a little crazy here because my first couple years of teaching, it was all about the procedural fluency. And then those of us who have been teaching, I don't know, longer than 5, 10 years, you've seen this pendulum shift left and right, back and forth. And so here's the thing, there's not one that's more important than the other. There needs to be a healthy balance of all three of these. So as much as we're talking about conceptual understanding and the application of a task, looking at where this fits into the greater scope of building that fluency that so many of us are after. So I just want to start off by sharing a quick little story. There was a second grade teacher. I was a coach at the building at the time. And the second grade teacher came to me like, Graham, my kids are struggling with story problems. Whether you're second grade, sixth grade, fourth grade, it doesn't matter. We tend to struggle. This is like one of our places where it's not the easiest to do. So as that group of second graders were out at recess, I came in, I write this problem up on the board. Joe had some playing cards in his bag. Ashley gave him 13 more cards. Joe now has 21 cards. How many cards does Joe have in his bag? So when that group of second graders walk into the classroom, I know, and you know as well as I do, like when any of our kids look at a story problem, this is what happens, right? Like the context of the problem has completely disappeared. The only thing that kids hyper focus on is just the quantities. Like I just need those numbers. And so what's helped me tremendously, and what I love about problem-based lessons and 3-act tasks, is that it acknowledges that there's this fight that's happening in our classroom between the context of the problem, like the what's happening, and the quantities in the problem, which are what the kids want. And so often kids focus on those quantities, but we want them to make sense of the context. Like if you don't understand what we're talking about, it's not going to help you when you get the numbers. So when that group of second graders walked into the room, they didn't walk in on this. They actually walked in on this. If you want to tick off a bunch of your kids, take away the one thing you know they want. And even more so, they walked in on this. Now, put yourself in the situation of students. If you walk into a room and you see this, what question do you think students might want to know? Drop something in the chat window for us. I'll sit tight for about 10 seconds. What questions might students want to know? And if you're having problems with your browser or the screen blacks out, just go ahead and hit refresh. Yeah, what kind of cards are they, right? Like, who's Joe? Like, I have an Uncle Joe, lives in Iowa, won't get on a plane. Or the kids want to know, like, are they Pokemon cards? Are they Garbage Pail Kid cards? A little trip down nostalgia lane for us. What kind of bag is it, Mr. F? Is it an Avenger bag? Does it have the rollies on it? Does it have the handle? How much does the bag weigh? And so I started realizing when kids want to know what kind of bag, what kind of cards, what kind of who's Joe, what do we tell them? That's not important. Don't worry about that stuff. So we're unintentionally dismissive to the very thing that we want kids to do, which is make sense of the context. Because so often in our classroom, kids want to know who's Joe, what kind of cards, what kind of bag, and we tell them don't worry about that. Like that's like trivial. It doesn't matter in this space right now, but it does. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to fill out the gaps in the context. And I think this is where 3-act tasks really come into play here. So if you've never, here's my goal, is if you've never done a problem-based lesson or you've never done a 3-act task, you will feel comfortable enough trying one of these tasks, say before the end of January. Let's make that our goal. Or if you go till February, perfect, great. So there's kind of like your one little walkway. If you don't know what a problem-based lesson is or you don't know what a 3-act task is, that's my goal. Now, I know many of you, I've seen a lot of familiar friends, kind of names jumping up here in the attendee list and in the chat window. You've been doing 3-act tasks for some time, but like you probably got to a space where you are like me, where you just got jazzed that your kids were finally engaged in a math lesson. You're like, yes, you go home happy. But what I realized is that when students are engaged in a math lesson, it is the most beautiful time to formatively and diagnostically assess what students are learning and where they're learning in a progression of learning. So for those of you who have been using 3-act tasks and problem-based lessons, want to like push this forward, it's like, how can we use these to learn more about our students? And before jumping into a 3-act task, Jamila actually said it there. I'd love to do a huge shout out to Dan Meyer. Dan Meyer is the grandfather of 3-act tasks. My kind of space and niche where I fit into this world is more so of a K6, K7 kind of world. But yeah, let's not waste any time. Let's kind of jump into the work here.